So, firstly, thank you so much for joining me today. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, and I'm delighted because I've been wanting to chat to you for so long. I have to kind of tell you how I found out about Arxx first, though, uh,
Please.
which I think is really funny because I didn't even know you guys were a band. Um, a couple of years ago, we got into the habit of heading down to Brighton on a Saturday because it's the seaside. And one of the local Brighton groups used a photograph I had taken under the pier on
Yeah.
their Instagram. And I was flicking up through the local Brighton stuff then, and I found a hairdresser, and I was like, "Oh wow, I really like that hairdresser style." And then I flicked through that hairdresser, and I was like, "Hold on, that's Sarah from Pillow Queens." And then I investigated, Hanni, that was you.
Oh, thanks.
So it's only then that I found out that Arxx were actually a band. And I'm really glad I did because then after that I got introduced to your music and it's the first thing that I noticed was that it was really nice to find queer pop indie music because it's getting more and more into the mainstream now. But there, visibility is still a major thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
absolutely. Yeah, even though we're moving pop, I think we can't help but stay like a little bit heavier in everything we do. Because even with our most like, yeah, the poppiest stuff we do, I'm like, oh, I should slap an electric guitar on that. Yeah.
That brings me on nicely to Crying in the Car Wash because this is like brand new single. It's moving on a little bit from your album.
Mhm.
And the first thing I thought of when I heard this was like, oh wow, Robin. And moving in that very kind of indie bop pop banger kind of realm. So is this the direction that your new music is going to go in?
I think so. Although I think it would be hard to say that it's all going in the same direction.
Yeah.
I think with us, like, we can't help but write songs that are wildly different sometimes. And we also like don't restrict ourselves on that. So if we want to write a song and it's like, oh, well, this isn't our genre, we don't really care. Just if we like it, then we like it, you know. Um, but I mean, we definitely are starting to write songs now that like reflect more what we listen to and where we're at now. Whereas like, you know, I'm not like an angsty 20-year-old now. Like, you know, I'm not a little baby anymore that needs to like get all their anger out because they don't know how to talk. But now I'm like, oh, let's write happy songs that make us feel
Yeah.
good, or at least like they sound happy.
I think we like when we first started, we would write just like the two of us in a room. So it was a very different sound that came out. Whereas now we write a lot of stuff like in the studio.
Yeah.
So we are kind of like we write it and then we figure out how to play it live. Whereas before we'd play it live and then figure out how to record it. So we've kind of just like lent into like we're like if we want a synth, we're gonna put a synth and then we'll figure out how to get the synth live. So we've just kind of like really lent into that because I think
As a,
that's the music we want to make. So.
Yeah.
and as a two piece, I think you kind of have to, if technology allows you to do stuff, you kind of have to go for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, you've just got to accept that like there's only two of us, so we're obviously not going to be able to play everything.
Yeah.
So we just got it makes it more interesting, I think, because you have to kind of figure out the ways and like when you play it live, you've got to figure out what you actually want to hear that like is essential to the song.
Yeah.
So it's interesting for us.
Yeah, it sounds kind of cheesy, but we always say like when we have a song, we listen to what the song wants.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're like, this song just wants to be a sad pop banger.
Yeah.
And that might mean that I play a synth instead of a guitar, or I play a guitar to sound like a synth, or whatever it is, you know. You just listen to what it needs.
Talking about playing live, you're on tour at the moment with Fletcher.
We are, yes.
Yes.
That going because I mean Fletcher is like huge.
Yeah, it's a dream. We won't lie. We keep pinching ourselves. We keep looking at our like each other like every night, like what is our life right now? It's really fun. She's super lovely. The tour has been amazing. So we've just done like a whole month in like Germany, France, Italy, everywhere. And it's been so fun. And the crowds are, yeah, like everyone who we would want to play to. So yeah, we're literally like living our 6-week dream right now. So
I've been to a queer audience. It's just
Yeah.
so lovely. Because like the first couple of shows, I was saying to Clara, like, this tour just feels different. Like I don't really know why. It's like, oh, because everyone's really gay. It's really nice. I mean, we keep joking that like by the end of this tour, I think we would have played to every queer person in Ireland and Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Because we would have like toured with Pillar Queens and Moona and Fletcher in Ireland and Northern Ireland.
I don't think there's a stone unturned.
I was going to actually say you're actually playing in Dublin on the 15th and 16th as well on this tour if people are around and they're going to the gig. So get down early so you can see Arxx. But you're also going on tour later in the year as well. You're going to be playing in Dublin on the 10th of November. Now, I haven't got all the details yet, but a tour when there's some new songs, is there new releases later in the year, or what's the story? And Hanni, I can see that little smile. And oh, I want to tell you, but how much can I?
We can definitely say that there's lots of new music coming. That's as good as we can put it.
Yeah.
Whether you'd listen to them in one go, I couldn't tell you.
There might be like 11 or 12 tracks or something like that.
There might
maybe,
be.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to talk to you actually about collaborations and how important collaborations are. You mentioned Pillow Queens. You had Pillow Queens on a track. You had Alva Reddy and you also had Shireen on a track as well on the album. But as a duo, how do you find, or how can you incorporate, working with other people into your unit? Because if you are so tight as a unit, working with other people, whether it's on tour, whether it's just in a dressing room before a gig or after a gig, just banging out some tunes, ideas flood from there. But how can you incorporate that into what you're doing?
That's a good question. I mean, we have a very strong sense of who we are, I think, and we've been doing this together a long time. We really know each other, and we're really close friends. I think having that sort of sense of each other and what we need is like the bedrock of everything for us. Like I can tell when Clara needs to be on her own. I can tell when Clara needs like a hug without having to have like a conversation. So in terms of like touring, that's like bringing other people into the team, it works.
Yeah.
Because we're always like solid together. In terms of like creatively, it's more interesting because obviously Clara's used to being the only rhythmic member of the band and I'm used to being the only melodic member of the band. So it's like we always joke that like we couldn't bring a bass player in because I don't know the chords, so I wouldn't know how to teach them. But yeah, it does just open like completely new creative worlds for us. And like doing those songs where people came in and sung different parts, it's just really lovely to like then hear how people like kind of riff on our ideas. Because I'm like, oh, I wish I'd done that. That's really cool.
It's nice as like I really can't sing, so it's really nice to have like other vocals in that like especially with the Pillow Queens version, we were all like, oh wow.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to kind of hear that like what other people would do with it. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
How are your vocals actually now? Because I know, Hanni, that you had some surgery a little while ago. How are you finding that, and how are you finding the touring with that? Because obviously it's not something you want to reoccur or whatever. So what has that meant? Have you had to adopt some kind of strict regime now?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it was scary at first. I think it took me a while to get back to trusting my voice. So like it was so down to the wire. Like I was amazingly lucky to have like the surgery when I did. But I think I first sang properly the day before we left for the tour. So it really was like we had to hope that this voice is going to be there. But my voice actually feels better now than it ever did before, which is amazing. And yeah, I'm just having to be like a way more regimented with warming up and stuff and not shouting. And I've been like strict with not drinking and whatever and staying hydrated and all that boring stuff. But it like those moments really like make you realize how silly this job is and how quickly it can all be gone. So yeah, it's made me like way more grateful now.
Yeah.
And just like even on shows where maybe you feel a little bit less like you're not quite in the headspace for it, like feel a bit anxious, I just like say to myself, you know, just enjoy singing. It's really nice. Because when I couldn't sing, my God, I was such a
you were very sad.
I was such a grump.
Well, I guess at this stage, it's part of your identity, though.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, it's the thing I feel like I'm best at. So then when that goes, it's a bit just like, oh gosh, I have to retrain. But yeah.
I want to talk to you about the visual aspect of Arxx because you've been working with the same photographer and filmmaker, and you kind of have it down. You have the whole video realm down. You kind of have this, you know what you want it to look like, and there's a quirkiness to it and a playfulness. Like it comes off. If you didn't know, you think, oh God, this is very serious. But it's not.
Yeah.
You know, it's really, really clever in how you have put together these videos. Tell us a little bit about the process that goes into making those.
We work with our friend who's Rosie Powell. She is amazing. We've known her for years. And we basically always have these like really unhinged and like kind of really far-fetched ideas, and she really makes them work on our tiny budget. Our manager's always like, how the hell did you manage to make that? We're like,
Yeah.
no. But she's just so great at just kind of going like head on into whatever we suggest, and we just really try and make it work. And we rope in a lot of friends. We have a lot of friends who have luckily like got really weird skills that are very useful. So like the horse riding one, we used Hanni's friend from home. We had full intentions of us being on the horse, and we sat on it and we were like, wow, no.
Very scary.
We got a professional rider. But yeah, it's kind of like a really fun other creative aspect that we get to kind of just launch ourselves into. But yeah, we have to give a lot of credit to Rosie. She really makes our weird visions come to life.
We have like a lot of enthusiasm and ideas and a shoestring budget, and she somehow makes it look amazing. So yeah, all credit to Rosie.
I read somewhere that you were into art and you liked Keith Haring and his work.
Yes,
Uh,
I mean,
what kind of stuff do you do when you're not playing in Arxx? Do you go to museums? What do you do?
yeah, we both love like modern art.
Yeah.
So if we have a day off on tour, quite often we just go see some art. I like a museum, but mostly if on art, like I'd say I spend all my time with animals, doing animally things. Yeah, my thing I'm most excited about coming home, other than obviously seeing my friends and my family, is that it's the season where you can go and hold a lamb. I'm really excited to hold a lamb.
So cute. That is so cute. I remember saying one time in a job that I was in that I thought I preferred animals to people, and because they were all driving me mad. You know, all you have to do is hug a little animal, and they'll give you a little hug back most of the time.
Yeah, it's really good.
Absolutely.
So, what do you do, Clara?
I love to read. I love to be outside in the sun. So if it's sunny, I will be outside. That is my whole. I'll find any way to do the job I need to do outside.
It's funny, it's like Clara's like a little cat, like in a green room or something. If there's a patch of sunlight, she'll be like hunched up on the table, just like.
But yeah, I just like to be outside. I like going for little walks and reading.
Tennis,
yeah. Just that, I don't know, a very simple life.
I think sometimes when you're busy all the time in your day job, because like that's what Arxx is becoming, your day jobs, and it's really tough to do that, because something that starts out as a hobby and is like a passion, to turn that into a day job, you still have to have the headspace for other life, because if you don't, it'll take over and you could easily end up hating it. And the other thing is you have to ensure that you still have life outside the band, because if you don't, you're not going to get good lyrics.
Yeah,
true. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a bit of a like, it's quite this like band life is quite like all encompassing.
Mhm.
And it's very like, you know, people want things from you at all hours of the day, and you don't have weekends because you're always playing shows. You can't, like, it's really hard to book a holiday because you're like, oh, what if that festival asks us to play? What if
boundaries don't exist.
Yeah, so it's quite like we do kind of, sometimes Hanni's like, I'm going on a holiday in these weeks, and I'm like, yeah, fair enough. Probably a good idea. So yeah, you do have to kind of be quite strict with yourself. Hanni's better at it than I am, but yeah.
It must be quite tough, especially like, let's say this time of the year, if you're trying to plan things, because like with festivals popping up all the time, I mean, who wouldn't want to like do Glastonbury or do some of the big ones wherever they happen to be around Europe? But at the same time, you can't just sit around waiting for those to when ask you to do them.
I mean, we've missed like countless birthdays, like celebrations, weddings. Like you feel bad, but you kind of, this is our life. So we're both so committed to it that you basically pick this over 99% of things. We both have like a few friends, we're like, if they're getting married, we are going to that wedding. There's
like I feel like at this stage in our career as well, like if you're massive, then people will keep asking. But at this point, and I think for a long time still, when you're in a band, there's so many amazing bands, which is wonderful. But there's just like, if you say no, someone else will say yes. Rightly so. But it just means like those offers won't always come back. So you do just have to like say, well, for this amount of time, the band is my number one priority, and I'm sorry, but everything else has to come second. And it's a really, when you start talking about it like that, it seems like an insane way to live, but we're just so used to it. And we're lucky that we're both just completely on the same page. So we both have the same like commitment to this silly little dream.
Now, I'm not going to keep you too long because I know that you're gigging and you know you've a couple of hours off, and the last thing you want to be doing is talking on the internet. What music are you listening to right now? I can see your t-shirt, Hanni, but what apart from Boy Genius? I mean, the world is listening to Boy Genius. Let's be honest. But are there any other artists that you think that our listeners should check out, that we might know about, that you think that, you know, you should shout them out and give them a little shout on the radio so people get to know them?
Well, Fletcher's great. No, like you've been listening to Middle Kids.
Yeah, Middle Kids I love. They're an Australian band and I just am obsessed with them.
Yeah. Liz Lawrence just brought out new music and we both love
her. Yeah.
I mean, she's already huge, but like we both love Maggie Rogers.
Yeah.
It's all very, I mean, all of the music we're listening to right now is reflecting on the fact that we're spending all the time in the car.
Yeah.
It's a big pop. But yeah, like I love anything that Little Sims does. That new record is outrageously good.
Yeah.
I remember seeing her open, actually, for example, in the Olympia in Dublin, about like it must be 10 or 11 years ago.
That's mad.
Oh my gosh!
Crazy.
Wow,
crazy! It was her and a DJ and some other guy bouncing around the stage. It was mad.
You know, her live show is insane. It's so good.
I'd love to see her.
You can?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, right. So I suppose the best place then to get those updates of possibly where you could be in the same vicinity of where Sims is, to go to your Instagram and keep an eye on tour dates and stuff like that.
Yeah, please. And also we have a mailing list on our website, which get all good stuff on there.
Gets updated whenever we remember to update. So yeah.
You won't get spammed because we literally don't remember.
You get about 4 emails a year.
But it is nice to see that bands have websites. There's still so many bands that don't have a website. And I keep trying to tell bands that like social media is great, but they're owned by corporations. You own your own website. And if one of those corporations goes down, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I use it as much as like my own diary, just so I know when all the gigs are happening. No, I'm not free that day, no.
So you're going to be playing in Dublin next week on the 15th and 16th of May. You're going to be playing with Fletcher. And in November, you're going to be playing in the Button Factory on the 10th of November. You've got a whole tour organized. You're going to be playing starting off in Brussels.
Yeah,
So you've got about another 6 weeks around Europe, which is nice.
yeah. That's
Uh,
our headline tour, yeah.
yeah, so that's fantastic. You're going to be back then, starting in the UK on the 1st of November in Manchester, all the way down to Brighton. You had to leave that to last. I mean, you could, I mean, 23rd November in Concord, 2 in Brighton, and you're going to be in Dublin, as I said, on the 10th of November. Thank you so, so much for joining me on the show today. Best of luck, and enjoy the rest of the tour, and hopefully we'll catch up in person soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's do it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank
for having
you.
us.